Comment on the video, where are people watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Alexander Price, the 52-year-old visionary behind Aurora Grand Hotel, stepped through the revolving glass doors of his flagship property just after dawn. The lobby's marble floors gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, and a grand staircase spiraled upward to private suites. Yet, despite his polished leather shoes and tailored charcoal suit, symbols of the empire he had built, Alexander felt as if he were a ghost. The front desk podium, manned by 2 uniformed attendants, remained locked in silent conversation, their eyes never flicking toward him as he approached. He cleared his throat politely. "Good morning," he said, his voice steady but quiet. The 2 attendants exchanged glances and returned to their paperwork. Alexander offered his best, most sincere smile, but it passed unnoticed. He lingered near the polished mahogany counter, hands clasped behind his back, waiting for any sign of recognition. Instead, the attendants resumed typing on their keyboards, as though the man in the lobby simply did not exist. A pang of disbelief shot through Alexander's chest. Here he was, the founder and CEO of a world-class resort, reduced to a bystander in his own hotel. He studied the attendants more closely: crisp white shirts, black vests adorned with the Aurora Grand crest, name tags reading Emily and David. They exuded professional competence, yet they had failed to register his presence. He sensed no malice in their ignorance, only a mechanical detachment that had somehow severed the human connection essential to hospitality. Alexander glanced around. Guests passed through the lobby, a couple with suitcases, a businessman on his phone, a family with a wide-eyed child clutching a stuffed toy. Each received warm greetings, personalized welcomes, and swift service. Their reservations were confirmed in moments, their luggage whisked away. Alexander's own valet, James, stepped forward to offer assistance, recognizing his employer at last. James bowed slightly, cleared his throat, and said, "Mr. Price, shall I fetch your car?" At the sound of his name, the front desk attendants finally looked up. Emily's eyes widened, and David's mouth twitched in surprise. They hurried to straighten papers, exchange embarrassed glances, and stammer out apologies that rang hollow in Alexander's ears. He nodded courteously and turned toward James, feeling a mix of amusement and frustration. His incognito experiment, checking in under the alias Nathan Reed, had begun with a simple goal: to experience his hotel as an ordinary guest. As James escorted him past the reception area toward the hidden back corridor, Alexander's mind raced. He had received an alarming number of guest complaints about inattentive service, rude staff, and slow response times. Reports from online review sites painted a picture of a once glorious resort in decline. Now, in these first minutes, he had confirmed that something was deeply wrong. The human touch, the essence of hospitality, had slipped through the cracks. He inhaled deeply, ready to delve deeper. The true test of his leadership would begin now, far from the boardroom and beyond the polished image of Aurora Grand's glossy brochures. Alexander Price, in the guise of Nathan Reed, would uncover the truth, and hold his team accountable. Disguised under the pseudonym Nathan Reed, Alexander approached the front desk a second time, this time carrying a modest leather briefcase and wearing a navy blazer instead of his usual suit. He handed Emily the reservation confirmation printed on simple white paper. "Mr. Reed," Emily said in a polite but distant tone, "I'm sorry, but I don't see a booking under that name." Alexander suppressed a small smile. He had pre-booked a comfort suite online, complete with spa access and breakfast service, yet Emily's screen displayed no such reservation. David hovered nearby, arms crossed, as if daring Alexander to challenge him. Alexander leaned forward slightly. "I made this reservation 3 weeks ago," he said. "Perhaps there was a system error." Emily tapped at her keyboard. "Our system shows only standard rooms under your credit card ending in 4321. There are no comfort suites available. If you'd like, I can place you on a wait list." She offered him a pen and a clipboard. Alexander glanced at David, whose lips pressed into a thin line. The two attendants exchanged a glance, professional, unreadable. Inwardly, Alexander noted every detail: the screen's dated software interface, the sluggish response to queries, the absence of a single empathic gesture. He felt a familiar thrill of discovery. Beyond the polished veneer, the hotel's operations had frayed. "I'll take the waitlist," he said calmly, returning the clipboard. Emily tapped another key, then printed a slip. "Here is your confirmation," she said, handing it to him. "You're number 4 on the list." She offered a curt nod and turned away. Alexander pocketed the slip and allowed David to lead him toward the lobby lounge. A barista called out, "Nathan, your latte is ready," and slid a cup across the counter. Alexander paid, then settled into a velvet armchair. As he sipped, he observed the flow of staff and guests, friendly baristas, attentive porters, and smiling greeters, except at the front desk, where the same tension lingered. He reviewed his next move: access the hotel's back-end system, track Emily's user logins, and uncover any irregularities. If he could expose the root cause of the service breakdown, he could enact real change. Alexander Price, alias Nathan Reed, was no longer just a guest, he was an investigator in his own kingdom. Under the soft glow of the lobby's chandelier, Nathan Reed returned to the front desk, his resolve steeled by the earlier slight. Emily glanced up from her computer without a flicker of recognition. She did not offer him a seat, did not break her typing rhythm, only tapped the keyboard once more, then looked back at the screen. "Mr. Reed," she said in a clipped tone, "I'm afraid there is still no record of a comfort suite under that name." Her words landed with deliberate finality. Nathan placed his crisp confirmation slip, AGH 19827, flat on the polished counter. Emily's manicured fingertip hovered over the paper, then she pushed it back toward him. "I've checked," she said. "Perhaps you booked under a different card." Nathan's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his palms resting lightly on the mahogany edge. "This confirmation came directly from Aurora Grand's website. It shows my name, the card ending in 4321, and the suite details. Please verify again." He kept his voice measured, though each syllable was edged with quiet insistence. Emily sighed as though burdened by his persistence. She clicked a few more keys, squinted at the screen, then shook her head. "There's nothing," she repeated, her tone unchanging. "I can offer to place you on a waitlist, but the comfort suites are fully booked." She returned to her paperwork, signaling that the exchange was over. A flicker of indignation warmed Nathan's cheeks. Around him, other guests received warm smiles and immediate service, a young couple collecting room keys, a businessman handed a complimentary water bottle, a family greeted by name. Yet here he stood, treated as a phantom. He straightened and cleared his throat. "I'd like to speak with your manager," he said, voice firm. Emily's posture stiffened. She shot a glance down the corridor where James hovered. "The manager, Mr. Price, is currently unavailable," she replied, using his real surname for the first time. "If you have concerns, I can take a note and pass it along." She held out a form. Nathan took a breath. "I am a guest, and my reservation exists. This is not a request for a note, it's a request for service." He tapped the slip. "I expect you to verify your system, or at least apologize for the inconvenience." Emily's eyes narrowed slightly. She withdrew the slip and scanned it again, slower this time. After a long moment, she leaned back and met his gaze. "Mr. Reed," she said softly, "I'm telling you the system shows no such reservation. If you believe there's an error, you'll need to contact Central Reservations." She turned away, dismissing him. That finality was more painful than any outright denial. Nathan stepped back, collected his briefcase, and let out a slow breath. James fell in step beside him, voice low, "Well played, sir." Nathan managed a tight smile. "Not quite the welcome I expected," he murmured. As they walked toward the lobby lounge, Nathan's mind raced. Emily's refusal was no mere glitch, her body language, the clipped replies, the overt dismissal, all pointed to a deeper contempt for guests. He realized this was not an isolated incident of misconfigured software but a symptom of a culture that no longer valued personal attention. Now, more determined than ever, he would delve into the hotel's back-end logs, trace Emily's user sessions, and review guest feedback tied to her station. This dismissal, he knew, marked the beginning of a thorough audit, one that would expose whether Emily's behavior was an anomaly or a widespread pattern of neglect at Aurora Grand. The real investigation was only just beginning. Late that afternoon, Alexander Price slipped away from the busy lobby and navigated the discreet service corridors that ran behind the front desk. The corridor's dim lighting and muted carpeting contrasted sharply with the glittering grandeur of the public areas. At the end of the hall, a reinforced door bore the plaque. Authorized personnel only. Alexander produced his CEO keycard and swiped it with practiced ease, the lock clicking open to reveal the hotel's nerve center, the back office where the property management system, PMS, console and network servers hummed in near silence. Inside, the room felt cool and slightly antiseptic. Racks of blinking servers lined one wall, their LED indicators casting pale reflections on the tiled floor. At the center, a wide desk held two large monitors, a keyboard, and a mouse, flanked by neatly stacked binders of operational manuals. Alexander placed his leather briefcase on a nearby chair, set aside his navy blazer, and sat at the desk. He tapped the power button on the primary terminal and watched as the system booted. The screen flickered to life, displaying the Aurora Grand Hotel login prompt. He entered his alias credentials, Nathan Reed, selecting the VIP access profile that granted him deeper visibility than most staff. Once authenticated, the main dashboard presented a bird's-eye view of the hotel's occupancy, recent transactions, and system alerts. Alexander clicked the Guest Profiles tab and entered Nathan Reed into the search field. The system returned two entries, one labeled Standard Booking, Deluxe Room, and another ghost entry titled Comfort Suite, Pending. The latter entry was highlighted in red, as if indicating an anomaly. Curiosity sharpened, Alexander opened the Comfort Suite record. The details had originally matched his online reservation, check-in date, payment status, suite number, and special requests for a welcome bottle of champagne. Yet the suite number field was now blank, and the record status read, cancelled. He frowned and navigated to the Audit Trail feature. The trail listed every action taken on the record since its creation. Scrolling down, he spotted the critical entry, a deletion command executed at 8:12 a.m. That morning, by user ID Gihays, workstation, front desk, 02. Alexander clicked the log entry to reveal more information. The timestamp was precise, down to the second. The workstation location matched the public reception desk, and the IP address corresponded to the internal network segment reserved for front desk operations. Even the session duration was logged. Emily had been active on her terminal when she issued the delete command. No additional notes accompanied the action, no explanation, no reason given. It was as if the Comfort Suite reservation had simply been wiped away. He sat back, absorbing the weight of this revelation. Emily had not stumbled into an error, she had intentionally removed his reservation from the system. The implications were serious. Any guest could have had their reservation deleted in the same manner, with no trace of malice other than the audit log itself. Alexander realized he was looking at a potential breach of trust, a breakdown in the hotel's core promise of hospitality. Determined to gather incontrovertible evidence, Alexander pressed the print icon. A moment later, a soft whirring heralded the printer's work. He retrieved the printed log entries and carefully reviewed each line, confirming the user ID, workstation, and command. Satisfied, he slipped the pages into his briefcase. Before logging out, he executed a discreet search for any other deletion commands executed by Gihays in the past month. A handful of similar entries appeared, each corresponding to different guest profiles. The pattern was undeniable. With the evidence in hand, Alexander shut down the terminal and resecured the desk area. He replaced his blazer and retrieved his briefcase. As he walked back through the service corridor, he mentally outlined the next steps. Confront Emily privately with the audit logs, verify the additional deletion incidents with IT, and prepare to escalate the matter to the hotel's senior management if necessary. Emerging from the back office, Alexander paused at the corridor entrance, glancing once more at the bustling lobby beyond. Guests chatted amiably, porters wheeled luggage, and baristas called out drink orders. To them, the day continued untroubled. But Alexander knew the truth: a frontline employee had abused her access, and the integrity of Aurora Grand's service had been compromised. Taking a steadying breath, he squared his shoulders and strode toward the reception area, ready to demand answers. Part 5, Confrontation and Denial, approximate, 700 words. Confrontation and Denial, approximate, 700 words, asterisk. Inside the cramped office, Emily's eyes darted between the printouts and Alexander's unreadable expression. The ivory walls felt closer, the air thicker. For a moment, she searched for words, but none came. The deletion entry sat between them like irrefutable proof. Emily, Alexander began softly, you and I both know this deletion didn't occur by accident. I want to understand why. His tone was neither accusatory nor forgiving but carried the weight of authority. Emily swallowed, her lips trembling as she clasped her hands in front of her. It wasn't me, she whispered, voice quivering. There must be some mistake. She placed a hand on the printout, as though trying to erase it. Maybe someone else was logged in as me. You know how the system autologs. Alexander folded his arms, gaze unwavering. According to the audit log, your user ID performed the deletion at 8:12 a.m. from your workstation in the lobby. Only you have credentials for that terminal. He tapped the paper. This isn't a system glitch. It's a deliberate action. Emily shook her head, tears welling. I didn't want to delete it. I thought the comfort suite was overbooked. When I saw that booking, I panicked. I clicked the wrong option. She wiped her tears. I meant to move it to a waiting list, not delete it entirely. He raised an eyebrow. A slip of the finger would show a transfer or status change, not a deletion command. And you did this after I first approached you about the booking. It was intentional. Her shoulders slumped. I was having a bad morning. The system was glitching, guests were complaining. She paused, voice cracking. I'm sorry. I know it sounds petty, but I felt undermined. Alexander exhaled slowly. I understand pressure builds, but this goes beyond a momentary lapse. It affects our service and trust. You put the hotel's reputation at risk. He slid the printout back to her. I need you to explain this in writing, and I will review the cameras and speak to IT. If there's any doubt, I will escalate this further. Emily picked up the paper with trembling fingers and nodded. I'll do it, she whispered. I'll write my statement. Back in the lounge, Alexander reflected on the balance between empathy and enforcement. Hospitality demanded understanding when staff struggled, but never at the expense of guests. He sent a discreet message to IT, compile a list of all deletion commands executed in the past 30 days under any receptionist's ID. Then he rose, ready for the next steps. Part 6, Demand for Action, approximate, 700 words. Returning to the front desk, Alexander adopted a different posture, no longer the patient investigator, but the authoritative figure behind Nathan Reed's reserved facade. Guests queued for service, oblivious to the prior confrontation. Emily sat at her station, her shoulders slumped, while David hovered nearby. Alexander stepped forward and placed his briefcase on the counter. Emily looked up, wary. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. Emily, I appreciate your cooperation and written statement. However, I still have no room assignment. Please locate my comfort suite as originally booked. His tone was polite but unwavering. Emily hesitated, then tapped at her keyboard. Her fingers moved slowly, and a flicker of annoyance crossed her features. "All comfort suites are currently occupied, Mr. Reed," she said, voice flat. "The next available suite is in the garden wing, but it's a standard junior suite." Alexander's gaze sharpened. "The comfort suite I reserved has been paid in full. I expect it to be available." He watched her face for any sign of apology or admission of error. Instead, her jaw tightened. She clicked a few more times. "If you insist, sir, I can offer you a superior room in the west wing. It's slightly larger than a junior suite but lacks the balcony view." He recognized the ploy. The west wing was known for its dimmer lighting and smaller windows, a downgrade from the comfort suite's panoramic vistas. "I will not accept a downgrade," he said firmly. "Arrange for the comfort suite, or I will escalate this to your manager." Emily exhaled and pressed a key. A new confirmation slip printed. She slid it across the counter. "Here is your key card, sir. The comfort suite is ready for immediate check-in." Her voice was subdued. Alexander picked up the card and inspected it. "Thank you," he said quietly. He paused before turning away. "Please ensure no guest is ever subjected to such disregard again." As he headed toward the elevators, James appeared at his side, pushing a luggage cart. "Your bag, sir." Alexander placed his briefcase on the cart. He pressed the elevator call button and turned to James. "Notify housekeeping to review their checklist. I want confirmation that every comfort suite is inspected and ready for future guests." The elevator doors opened, and Alexander stepped inside. Behind him, Emily returned to her station, posture a mix of relief and shame. In the silent hum of the elevator, Alexander reflected on the chain of events, from deletion logs to denial, from confrontation to resolution. The hotel's service standard had been restored, but underlying issues remained. He vowed to continue his incognito audit until every facet of Aurora Grand met his exacting expectations. Part 7, Emily's Misconduct and Managers in Action, approximate, 700 words. After securing the comfort suite, Alexander Price, still under the guise of Nathan Reed, returned to his suite and reviewed the additional audit data he had requested from IT. In the muted glow of the bedside lamp, he studied a spreadsheet of deletion commands executed by user ID Gihes over the past month. Each entry detailed the date, time, workstation, and guest name whose reservation was erased. What troubled him most was that several of these incidents had triggered formal guest complaints that should have alerted management. The next morning, Alexander made his way to the hotel's administrative offices on the third floor. He took the service elevator, nodding politely to staff in the corridors, until he reached a suite of glass-paneled offices. A nameplate on one door read, "Michael Bennett, Front Office Manager." Alexander knocked and entered. Michael Bennett, a lean man in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair and a crisp navy suit, looked up from his desk. His office was orderly, folders neatly stacked, framed commendations on the wall. Alexander introduced himself again as Nathan Reed and explained he was conducting an internal review of his recent stay. He slid a printout of the audit summary across the desk. Michael's expression shifted from polite interest to surprise as he scanned the pages. "These deletions. I see several entries here. I thought Emily had merely moved those reservations to waitlists." He tapped the sheet. "But these logs show full deletions." Alexander nodded. "I have guest feedback indicating missing bookings, lost deposits, and frustrated calls to reservations. Some guests were downgraded without explanation. Yet I see no record of managerial follow-up." Michael's shoulders sagged. He ran a hand through his hair. "I was aware of a few complaints. Front desk traffic was heavy, and I assumed Emily had resolved them informally. I didn't realize reservations were being erased entirely. I should have escalated the matter to HR. Several of these incidents date back weeks," Alexander said quietly. "Guest emails were routed to your inbox, but no disciplinary action was taken. Why?" Michael hesitated, then sighed. I didn't want to create a scandal. We've been under pressure to maintain occupancy rates. Losing a comfort suite reservation meant freeing up high-demand rooms. I thought I was prioritizing availability. I was wrong. Alexander leaned forward. Your inaction allowed this behavior to continue. Emily's misuse of her privileges has harmed our guests and tarnished Aurora Grand's reputation. As front office manager, the responsibility lies with you. Michael's face reddened. He clasped his hands. I understand. I should have intervened sooner. I'll cooperate fully with any corrective measures. Alexander exhaled slowly. I will be reviewing all guest complaints and staff logs from the past quarter. Any indication of negligence or deliberate misconduct will be documented. You'll need to prepare a report detailing your oversight and recommendations for preventing such lapses. Michael nodded solemnly. I will. And I'll draft a formal apology to affected guests. As Alexander departed Michael's office, he reflected on the systemic failures he had uncovered. A receptionist abusing her access, a manager prioritizing occupancy over service, and a culture that allowed both to persist. He resolved to address these failures head-on, ensuring accountability at every level. Part 8, Termination in the Lobby, approximate, 500 words. Later that afternoon, Alexander Price shed his Nathan Reed persona. He donned his tailored charcoal suit and entered the lobby with the confident stride of the hotel's owner. Guests paused to watch as he approached the front desk, where Emily Hayes and David greeted a new arrival. The air seemed to still. Emily, Alexander called, voice carrying across the marble floor. Emily's eyes widened as she recognized him. She stammered, Mr. Price, sir. He held up a printed copy of the audit logs. You've repeatedly deleted guest reservations without cause. Your actions have cost the hotel revenue and caused distress. Michael Bennett was aware and did nothing. Effective immediately, you are terminated. A hush fell over the lobby. Guests and staff alike watched as Alexander signaled to two uniformed security officers who stepped forward. Emily's face went pale. She stood, hands shaking, as one officer took her arm. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as other guests retrieved smartphones to record the scene. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Please, Mr. Price, she began, voice trembling. But Alexander's expression was resolute. You've had your chance. Please gather your personal items. With the officers on either side, Emily walked down the lobby steps and out through the revolving doors. The entire lobby watched in silence. Alexander turned back to Michael Bennett, who stood nearby, head bowed. And you, Alexander said, will join me in the boardroom at 5 p.m. We have much to discuss. As Emily disappeared from view, a ripple of applause broke out. Guests praised Alexander for his decisive action, and staff exchanged relieved glances. The hotel's sense of order was restored. Part 9, Corporate Cleanup, approximate, 500 words. That evening, Alexander convened an emergency meeting with department heads in the boardroom. The room was filled with leaders from operations, human resources, IT, and guest relations. He presented his findings, the audit logs, guest complaints, and the timeline of managerial inaction. Effective immediately, Alexander announced, we are launching a full-scale audit of all reservations and service incidents over the past 6 months. Guest accounts with unexplained cancellations will be credited, and formal apologies issued. We will review all audit trails for deletion commands and cross-reference them with complaint records. The IT director, Priya Desai, outlined a plan to enhance the PMS with multi-step verification for deletion actions and real-time alerts for high-risk commands. The HR manager, Carlos Mendez, recommended updated training modules on ethics and guest relations, as well as a clear disciplinary policy for misuse of system privileges. Alexander then addressed Michael Bennett. As front office manager, you will oversee the guest compensation program and ensure that every affected customer receives appropriate restitution, room upgrades, vouchers, or refunds. You will also lead a task force to restructure the front desk team, implementing peer reviews and quarterly performance audits. The room buzzed with activity as leaders took notes and volunteered for committees. Alexander emphasized transparency. We will publish a summary of these measures on our website and include them in our next investor report. Accountability will be our hallmark. By the end of the meeting, action items were assigned, timelines established, and weekly progress reports scheduled. Alexander felt a renewed sense of purpose. Aurora Grand would emerge stronger, its commitment to exceptional service reaffirmed. Part 10, Final Actions and Accountability, approximate, 500 words. In the days that followed, Alexander monitored the rollout of the audit and the compensation program. Guests who had suffered booking errors received personalized apologies from Michael Bennett, accompanied by complimentary stays and spa credits. The PMS updates went live, and IT reported a 100% reduction in unauthorized deletions. Michael presented his comprehensive oversight report, acknowledging his failures and detailing the new front desk protocols. Emily Hayes was formally blacklisted from hospitality roles within the Aurora Grand network, and her termination served as a cautionary example to all staff. Alexander also implemented a quarterly mystery guest program in which senior leaders anonymously experienced the hotel's services and report findings. He personally led the first round, disguising himself once more to validate the new procedures. At a staff meeting, Alexander addressed the entire hotel team. "We've learned hard lessons," he said. "But our response defines who we are. From now on, every reservation, every interaction, will reflect our dedication to genuine hospitality. Thank you for your commitment." Standing in the lobby that evening, Alexander watched guests arrive and be greeted with warmth and precision. The chandeliers sparkled, and the marble floors reflected confident smiles. The crisis had tested Aurora Grand's values, but under his leadership, the hotel had not only recovered, it had reasserted its promise. Alexander Price, once unseen, now stood fully visible, his hotel's reputation restored by the very accountability he demanded.